ready for lesson 90 in Heritage Studies. So let's go ahead and get started. Now we're going to be on page 268 in your reader book. So if you'll pause it right quick and turn to page 268. Okay, so here we are. Let's go ahead and read a little bit. First of all, before we get started, let's think back to our previous lesson. Why was it necessary for the United States to declare war on Japan and enter World War II? Remember what happened? Pearl Harbor. Remember, the Japanese came in and bombed Pearl Harbor. And so the United States went in to stop German and Japanese aggression in the world. Because remember, Japan, Germany, and Italy were trying basically to take over half the world. And so the United States is like, whoa, you just hit us. We don't like what you're doing, so we're fixing to do it. Okay, so let's read about the European powers fight. Now, so like I said, we're going to be on page 268. Now, at the bottom on page 268, you see the map. It says the war in Europe. All right, you've got red is the Axis powers. That's Germany, Austria, Italy. And then you've got Axis control. That's where they actually went in and began to control. Look at all that orange color. That's all the stuff they were trying to remember. That North Africa, you see where it's Morocco and Algeria and Libya. That is Northern Africa. And they were taking over. They were trying to take over the whole thing. Looks like they were working on it, doesn't it? And then yellow, those are your neutral countries. They weren't involved in it. They wanted to stay out. And then the blue arrows show the Allied advances. We were the Allies. So it was Great Britain and not France. It was Great Britain and United States, I'm guessing. And we were coming in and we were going to start whooping up on them. So let's look then on page 268, Germany before Japan. Okay. Once the United States decided to fight, Americans worked hard to ensure success. Japan had attacked the United States, but President Roosevelt believed Germany was a bigger problem. By this time, Hitler had attacked the USSR. Roosevelt told his military leaders to defeat Germany and Italy first. Great Britain and the USSR needed urgent help. Japan would be the second target. So let's look at where it says North Africa. Now this on the map, it's in green. This is the continent of Africa, and this right here then would be considered North Africa. Now this says under General George Patton, which is who you're studying and for your researching for your English paper, Allied troops were able to free North Africa from German control. So to defeat Hitler, the United States needed to get troops into Europe, but Hitler and his followers controlled every landing place. German and Italian armies were even in North Africa. America's first job was to drive the Axis powers from Africa. And as America planned to drive the Axis powers from Africa, the British fought to stay in Egypt. Now, Egypt is this country right here in northern Africa. German troops marched east across North Africa. They wanted the Suez Canal. This strip of water provided a shortcut for Great Britain to its largest colony, India. General Bernard Montgomery fought the Germans in western Egypt, and in late 1942, he successfully began pushing them west. At the same time, American troops under General George Patton arrived in North Africa, and his troops pushed the Axis forces east. The Germans were trapped between the two Allied armies. One was over here and one was over here. A large German army surrendered, and North Africa was freed. All right, now let's look then at the next section on page 269. You see where in the middle it says the weak spot in Europe? All right, now I want to show you something. This is the country of Italy. Now, I don't know what all these letters mean. This is just a map that I found that I am using, so I'm not sure what the letters mean. But this is the country of Italy. This right here is zoomed into this area. And this island here is the island of Sicily. Okay, so Sicily and Italy are two that we're fixing to read about. Now, the Allies next moved to attack Hitler through Italy. The island of Sicily lay halfway between North Africa and Italy. So here's part of North Africa, and here's Italy. So here's Sicily. You see how it's kind of almost halfway in between there. It offered a jumping off place. In the latter half of 1943, American and British troops moved north from Africa. Allied troops invaded mainland Italy from Sicily in early September. And on September 8, 1943, Italy surrendered. Bam, one at a time. After Italy's surrender, the war continued on in Italy. Mussolini escaped to the German forces. Hitler sent many soldiers into Italy, but the Allies began inching up the peninsula. As the Allies advanced, President Roosevelt tried to make good decisions, but his two biggest allies didn't like each other. Okay? Great Britain and the USSR. Now, that's who we're fixing to read about on page 270. Now, the Allies were Great Britain, USSR, or we know them as Russia, and the United States. Now, Winston Churchill and Stalin, these two, this is Roosevelt. Now, these two men did not like each other, okay? But Roosevelt made them get along because they needed to so that they could defeat Hitler because he was the bad guy. So look at the top of page 270 where it says Allies, Great Britain and the USSR. One of America's allies was Great Britain. From the beginning of the war, Great Britain fought Hitler. It was led by Winston Churchill. The British refused to surrender. Remember, we talked about that. Americans liked Great Britain. It was a democracy, and British people were free. Americans had much in common with Great Britain. America's other ally, though, was not a free land. The USSR's dictator Joseph Stalin allowed his people almost no freedom, but he was fighting to defeat Hitler. President Roosevelt remained friends with the USSR. He knew the Allies needed as much help as possible to defeat Hitler. USSR was big and they were powerful and very strong. So Roosevelt, the President of the United States, who was friends with Winston Churchill, knew that they needed Stalin's help. Several times during the war, all three Allied leaders met. Churchill and Stalin did not like each other. Churchill believed Stalin would enslave people most as much as Hitler did. President Roosevelt told him to get along. Hitler was attacking both Great Britain and the USSR. Because both countries needed American help, they listened to Roosevelt. So that was kind of what was going on there. So the Allies are coming in, and little by little by little by little, we're inching our way in there during World War II, and we're starting to see a change. Italy has surrendered. So now these three, the Allies, are learning to get along so that they can defeat Hitler. Okay? All right, so let's go ahead and look at our work text page. It's a page that you're going to do yourself for a grade. It's really easy. It's page 121. So if you would pause it while you look at page 121, I'm going to explain to you what to do. All right, so this is going over everything that we just read. Now you'll see at the bottom there's a picture of General George Patton Jr. discussing a war strategy. All right, so basically you're just going to read each statement. There's 8 statements. You're going to read 8 statements, and if it's true, then write true. If it's false, then you need to change the underlined word to make it true. Okay? All right, so I need you to go ahead and do that today, and that was all of your lesson. We weren't going to ask any questions because we kind of discussed it as we went along. So if you're having trouble finding the answers to those, go back through those pages that we just read today, 268 to 270, and read through those pages, and you'll find your answers in there, okay? All right, that'll be all for today.